Welcome, cycling fans. I hope you're enjoying all the amazing guests that I've been bringing you on the podcast to date. And before we get started, I want to share with you an amazing way that you can coach with me this winter. So if you've been liking all my coaching segments, you're going to love this program. So it's my 16-week online winter road cycling training program. Say that 10 times fast. So I've been doing this program for over 15 years. It's been usually local, but now it's online, which is even more amazing because I can impact more cyclists this way than in studio. The way it works is you're going to learn valuable cycling skills, such as, have you ever asked yourself, first of all, how can I become a create a more smooth pedal stroke? Like, what are the 4 quadrants all these people have been talking about? And how can I get stronger on the hills? So here's the thing. It really comes down to the fundamentals and the basics skills of cycling, which when you get on your bike, you know nothing about. Now this is that, and that's what I'm going to drill into you over 16 weeks. So when you finish, you are going to know how to create a smooth pedal stroke and be more efficient. You're going to be climbing hills with much better technique. You're going to be building your sprint base, and your endurance base is going to be much stronger. Now, I have a special code for you. It's podcast in all uppercase to get $50 off either the VIP or the basic program. Now, go to this website to check out what the differences are. Basically, the VIP is a much greater coaching program. So if you want more personalized coaching, goal setting, and we have a reported 5 to 20% increase in fitness. Can you imagine starting your spring with that kind of increase based on last year? So it's 16wkroadcycling.ca. So that's 16wkroadcycling.ca and use the code podcast to get $50 off. And if you have questions, just email me. I'd love to answer them. And I hope and look forward to coaching you to become better on the bike. I hope you enjoy the next episode. Have an amazing day. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Secrets from the Saddle, All Things Cycling podcast with your host, Sylvie here. And I have a really, really cool guest here, Andrew Hovelson. And I have met him. Now you're going to, how did I find him? Well, if you're familiar with Andrew, maybe you've seen him on a couple TV shows, maybe a couple movies. Has it been a movie? Yeah. Movies?
There has been a few movies. Yes.
Yeah, a few movies. You're like, how did she get connected with him? Well, let me tell you, when you join a mastermind group like the one we have joined, you just never know who you're going to come across. And then you're going to be Sylvie, but he's not into cycling, and that's okay because Andrew is not only an actor, but he is super passionate about entrepreneurship and helping teenagers get over certain humps. And I'm going to give you his bio that he gave me. It's short. Yeah, I gave you the short version, but then we're going to bring him out and he is going to tell us some of the really amazing programs that he is so passionate about. And if you have a teenager at home that is getting into like high level sports, you want to lean in and listen to this podcast. Okay, as a parent, as an athlete. So let me just get into his bio and then we're going to get into what Andrew is so passionate about because I absolutely love it. And that's why I brought him on the podcast, because cycling, there's just like every other sport, there are high level athletes that are trying to get to the top. And when getting to the top, you've got lots of roadblocks that can come in your way. So here it is. Andrew comes from a unique background of art and entrepreneurship. Having been on Broadway film and TV, Andrew now runs one of the fastest growing and impactful life coaching companies for Gen Z in the world. And that, like I said, you got to lean into this. Based on a 165-year-old success principal learned through a crazy summer college internship and perfected in see, I told you, Andrew, I can't read these things.
You're doing great.
And a $20 million sales coaching company. Andrew and his team of coaches are helping Generation Z overcome anxiety, increase confidence, organizing their schedules, and getting motivated through one-on-one coachings over Zoom. Of course, so he's global. Andrew has been an education entrepreneur for over 15 years, and his newest venture at Southwestern Students Edge is changing the course of the next generation. And welcome, Andrew. I'm so excited to have you here.
Thank you, Sylvie. This is awesome. I've been looking forward to this for a long time.
Oh, I'm so glad you're here.
And congratulations to you on getting this off and running.
Yeah, thanks. And it's been, oh my gosh, it is so much fun. You know why? Because, I get to meet people like you. I get to learn things. I also, and it's funny, sometimes through conversations, I'm like, oh, you might just get a connection and grow your network, because I might know somebody that, needs your help. And of course, I have a teenager. Well, she's 18. I don't know if you call her a teenager anymore, but she is moving into what we hope to be a high level, I don't know about career, but there is a potential of being a career. And I know she suffers from anxiety. So I am going to lean in, and it's in the cycling world. So
let's do it. We'll solve all of her problems.
Oh, yes. Oh, God, I wish.
Right now. That's what she wants, is two adults that are older than her to solve all her problems.
Yes, that's right. She doesn't want to listen to me anymore. So, Andrew, start maybe go back to that internship that really changed your life and said whoa.
Yeah.
This is what I want to do, because I've heard you talk about this, and the passion is enormous.
So when I was in college, I have 2 degrees in acting, Sylvie. I have a Bachelor of Fine Arts and a Master of Fine Arts in acting.
And he's good. I was so intrigued. I was watching one of his, but this is not what it's about.
That's okay,
right?
It does go into the does go into the summer internship.
Yeah,
because I thought, you know what, I need to, as I try to get my acting career, as I get my acting career off the ground, I need to be able to pay for rent, for groceries, right? And I got connected with this really unique company called the Southwestern company. And there were a few people out of the University of Minnesota who went and sold education materials and CDs at the time, right? Now they sell websites door to door.
Oh.
And we relocated every summer. And I love experiences.
Why'd you relocate every summer?
Well, because you have to eliminate distractions, which is a huge thing for young athletes.
Oh,
right?
okay.
If you're living at home and your pals are all around you, at
or your
5
parents.
o'clock, or your parents, 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you're not going to want to keep knocking and find that next customer. And I did really well at it. And I happened to bring out a team my second summer who did exceptionally well. And a couple of them were actors. And actually, oh my gosh, Sylvie, we're bringing it home.
What?
Two of them still are some of my best friends in the world, my team. One of them is an avid cycler. He is my neighbor from my hometown in Lewiston,
You have
Minnesota.
to connect us so we can get him on here talking about your program.
I will. God, I'm going to write this right down.
Yes, write it down.
And
this is after this, we make all the little connections.
You and your audience will know this. He did the American cycle across the country where you started.
Did he just
Washington.
do that?
No, he did it, 6-7 years ago or so, where you cycle from Oregon or whatever.
Yeah.
What's it called?
I think it's one. It just went. Is it like Cycle Across America or
Something
1 mile
like that.
or something?
So
It just happened. It just happened.
He did it he did the track by himself.
Oh,
anyways, by himself.
These guys are heavily supported, and they have teams when they do it.
Well, this guy didn't have any teams. His name is Jonathan Reister, Jonathan Reister. He had a blog about it. And I talked to him because this cycling was after we did this summer internship together. And he would essentially couch surf when he got into a town. And he would have to virtually knock on doors and say, where am I going to stay tonight? Is it going to be in a tent on the side of the road, or is it going to be with somebody in this network?
Right.
Okay. So brought out this team. We did really well. It was an opportunity to graduate college without any debt. Right.
Oh God,
it was also an opportunity for me to learn how to overcome failure, right? How to create a vision, how to stick to a schedule, how to finish the day when maybe I didn't want to do it. It was straight commission, no guarantees, right? So you get what you put in, and there could have been no better lesson for being an entrepreneur and an actor than doing that summer internship. It still exists today. They're breaking records this summer. And so I did that summer internship, and then I used all those skills to go knock on casting directors' doors and agents' doors as an actor. And a few of the folks, when I sold books, actually knocked on salesmen's doors after this, knock on doors over the phone, and they created a company where they taught the success principles that we learned selling books door to door to sales managers, executives, CEOs, right?
Because when the internet's gone, that's all you have is to go back to old school connecting. Right. And if you can do that, you can do anything.
The internet can be a huge distraction. And so what's happened over the last couple of years is they reached out to me and said, hey, Andrew, I know your wife's a teacher. I know you've always been huge into the education space. We're a network of high performers. And would you come and create a company coaching teens and young adults? And it just so happens that a lot of the teens and the young adults, right? So your daughter, 18, we coach up to 25-year-old, are high-performing athletes. They're high-performing athletes. So
and it's funny because I've interviewed a couple high-performing athletes in their younger 20s that are their goals are to get to now we got the female Tour de France coming back, the Olympics.
Sure.
And you know what? Well, getting there is like a 4-year commitment. And with that, it's going to come a lot of hard work and a lot of failures and setbacks and for moving forward. And I feel that this is really, really needed. And it's funny because some of them have had not so good experiences in say a past sport, during their teenage years where they, got into having eating disorders, injury, things like that they've moved on, but kind of carried a little bit with them. They've kind of, and I'm just thinking of one girl in particular that I interviewed the other day, you're never really over that. And there's a lot of psychological baggage. I don't say baggage, but baggage that comes with it because it never goes away. It's always there.
Yep.
So things like that. And I love it. So tell me more.
Yeah. So it's really interesting. You're a parent, you have, your 18-year-old.
I got kids coming up the ropes
daughter.
Too.
I have some younger kids, all under 10, 3 boys. We call them, my wife and I call them our Labrador retrievers.
Oh God, no kidding.
There's no need for pets.
Yeah, I have one, and that's I'm glad it's off balance with a girl. Holy, bow down to your wife.
I know.
What?
She's a rock star and a godsend.
God.
Inevitably, what happens with kids, though, here's where this is going.
Okay, tell
Inevitably,
me.
what happens with kids over and over, even in the best of parenting situations, right, is that at some point, it's hard to be a prophet in your own land, right?
Yeah.
It just is. And with young athletes, a lot of times, as parents, will be teaching them about, hey, practice, makes perfect. Hey, you just take some deep breaths, right, before you go out for that big race. And they're like, yeah, whatever, mom and dad, and the eyes roll. And then they come back from practice and they're like, hey, mom, guess what coach taught me? You know what? I'm going to sit down and I'm going to visualize for 5 minutes before each race. And you go, that's what I've been saying for the last 15 years of your life.
I know.
Have you ever felt that way?
Yeah. Yeah. And you're just like, did you hear me? Did you hear anything I said?
Yeah. Anything.
It's just like, woo,
right?
Whatever. And it doesn't matter. Like, mom, it has to come from somebody else.
Exactly.
Like, honestly. And I'm like, and so now I just kind of shut up. I'm like,
right.
Or
and
maybe I'll do little plugs. Hey, could you tell her that that this is like, and then
you're like coaching the coach.
Coaching the coach. No.
And so what we've found through our one-on-one coaching program, and specifically for your audience, for our really high-performing young athletes, is that in their team sport or their individual sport, they have a coach who's going to help them excel at cycling, at track and field, right? At soccer. We have a couple of D1 soccer players going D1. What they don't realize, and parents, we lose track, is that the highest professional athletes have coaches for both their mental, their physical, and their skill, right? Think of The Last Dance, the Netflix documentary of Michael Jordan, right? You remember this, right? He has Phil Jackson. He's the coach, right? Phil Jackson is the coach. But do you remember his... I
actually didn't see it. I'm sorry.
Oh, you did see it. Oh, you got to see it. You have to see it. Hey,
I'll write it down. I'll watch it.
Cyclist,
I'm just like, I got to be honest. I didn't see it.
You have to see it. Even as a cyclist, as any athlete.
Okay.
Michael Jordan had his own coach named Tim Grover, who helped optimize his body and his mind. And so what we've done, we're not training people, right, at all. But what we found is that young athletes over and over have just enjoyed someone who doesn't have so much skin in the game of their mom or their dad, right? Their soccer coach, their cycling coach, right? Their baseball coach, who can teach them and coach them on how to think, not what to think.
Right.
And the greater life skills on, let's say, vision, goal setting, time management, positive self-talk, right? Overcoming fear, attitude of gratitude, right?
Yeah.
And there's certain ways that you and I can get into that we do these exercises and coaching with our young athletes that's been really successful. So that's what we've done. We've had almost 100 kids come through, and a large portion of them are just rock star young athletes.
So how do they find you? Like, now that you're like, I know now that you've like, do you focus on going to schools? Or do people find you through word of mouth? Like, how are you bringing your people in?
Great question. As of today, 95% is word of mouth and referral.
Wow.
And that won't be forever. Sylvie, right? Eventually, our goal is to be the number one place for development of young people in the world. And there will be brand recognition, brand awareness, right? People
Mm-hmm.
will come from outside, but right now the impact and the results have been so amazing that people are just telling their friends. We went from 10, 12 a year ago to nearly 100.
So are you going in and offering your service to like teams?
It's a great question. It's the next step is that we're partnering with schools
Right.
and teams. And what we do is we come in and we'll give a really amazing workshop, right?
Right.
On a whole host of different topics that could be valuable. And we give a free workshop. And they're going to learn a ton in that workshop or that webinar about how to overcome fear or procrastination, right? And then hopefully at the end, they like the idea enough that they want to enter into a coaching conversation.
Oh, I'd love to be part of that. That sounds
Amazing.
like something that I could really get into. But you're in the States, I'm in Canada. And so run us through, say, like, one of your workshops. Like, how do you engage these students? Like, what do you say that kind of like makes them turn their head and actually listen to you? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like capture their attention.
Yeah. Great question. So
because I want to know. Parents, lean in. No, this is probably not really going to work for us, but anyways.
one of the biggest things is that we actually meet the parents first, right? And it's typically the parents who say, hey, I'd love to hire an outside coach for my son or daughter. They're doing awesome in sports, right? They're doing well in academics, but I'd like them to have a little bit better mental health and not be so stressed out. Right? Or they're doing great in sports. They're not doing so much in academics. We've tried tutoring, and I think it's just some of the life skills and how they're thinking about life, right? So we enter in through the parents. Okay.
Jeez.
And no kid wants to have their parents tell them that they need a coach, right? This is where your question's going.
Yeah.
So what we do is when we share with our parents what we're doing, we say, hey, we don't take kids that don't want to be a part of coaching because it's not a good service for them and it's not a good service for us. So we actually offer a free coaching session where we get to meet each student one-on-one to see if they like the idea of coaching. And inevitably, 99 times out of 100, we sit down with the son or daughter and they say, oh, my parents they told me I had to sit here.
Of course.
And then they meet one of our coaches and they say, wow, this is different. This is really cool. You're asking me questions that no one asks me about my goals, where I stand in my own way. Right. And what happens if nothing changes? Right? What would it be like to have someone who's invested in the goals that I set for myself, not that my mom sets for me, not that my coach sets for me, not that from my teammates set for me. And
what's their real vision, right? For themselves? Like you were saying, the long-term athlete vision and goals.
Because here's the deal. Here's a little trick. And it will be helpful for your audience. So motivation, right? It's a buzzword that people use all the time. My kid's not motivated. My kid's really motivated, right?
Right.
There's like no in between. You're either motivated or not. But that's not actually true. What happens is if you have a lot of motivation, right? Sometimes that comes with a lot of stress and pressure.
Right.
If you lack motivation, sometimes that comes with a lot of procrastination, right? Or as for an athlete, right? What it comes for is just not doing your best.
Right.
It has nothing to do with motivation. It has to do with lack of vision. So if you have a vision of what you want out of a meet, if you have a vision of what you want out of a school year, if you have a vision of what you want out of a career, A young athlete, they don't all have to be professional athletes,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
If you have a vision, you have somebody set some goals around your vision and have a clear purpose, you get fired up about it.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone does. Kids do, parents do, and the kids get to create this themselves. So that's how we start all of our coaching, is diving into a vision. And they just have not been asked that stuff before, or they have been asked it and it just hasn't computed because of the messenger, not really the message.
Right. Because I was thinking, like you were talking about, you started with parents, or you start with parents who, because a parent has to be pretty open to want to ask for help, or like, my kid doesn't need help, or you know what I mean? Like, I can't I'm not gonna say I'm perfect or anything, but and maybe I'm just thinking about what I've seen, but sometimes I can't, it's hard to see a lot of parents thinking about that.
Yeah.
First of all, and then actually saying, oh, my son could really use that, or my daughter, second of all. And then where would you, because this isn't like everywhere. Like, I know, like, it's pretty unique.
It's very unique. It's very unique. In the early stages, some of what you're talking about was a challenge, right? So we talk to parents and they think, well, I've never really heard about that. My kids are okay. And then my kids are okay. They jump to, I'm not sure my kids would even respond to this. Yeah. And so we've developed kind of a cool selection process where it's really low pressure. Mm-hmm. And we just get to have a little conversation with the parents. And then we get to have a deeper conversation with the parents of what we do in coaching and what might the benefits be for their kids, because everyone is different. Yeah. And when they're sold on the idea of coaching, the last piece is, will my kids use it? Will my kids do it? And we do that through that free coaching session. So when we go into schools, right? When we go into schools, I'm thinking right now, I did, I guess when this gets launched, I did a workshop series for one of the largest school districts in California on summer projects, right? Malcolm Gladwell says that the achievement gap for students isn't really an achievement gap at all. It's a summer gap. It's that summer. That kids get either left behind or forward in the summer. And so we created a whole philosophy behind a summer project. Mm-hmm. And this has happened. I'm thinking of actually an athlete here that I've worked with who is one of the top track and field athletes in Oregon. And he really wanted to see if he could run track at the level he wants to in college on a scholarship, right? And you know, from the athlete world, that's tough. It's tough no matter how good you are, right? Mm-hmm. And so he said, you know what? I have 7 events that I'm ranked in state, but if I want a scholarship, I need to be a decathlete. Decathlete? Yeah. So we created this summer project for him, right? Where was one of his opportunities to grow. For him, it was become a more well-rounded athlete, right? To see if he could get a scholarship. What were his passions? Track. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we created a summer project where he was going to go try out all the decathlete events and see if he could do it. And at the end of the decathlete's summer, what, 8 or 10? It's 10. Yeah. 10. Okay, so at the end of the summer, he's got this whole data set and he's applied himself during the summer, right? He hasn't wasted it on video games. He hasn't wasted it over stressing. Like, I have to be in ridiculously good shape for when school starts again. Right? Because what happens if you don't train during the summer as a young athlete? You spend the first 6 weeks of school trying to get back into game shape, get back into meet shape. Yeah. Right. And it's frustrating. So we went in for the California school district and did a summer project, webinar and workshop, and parents ate it up and kids ate it up. Oh, They loved it.
Cool.
They thought, wow, I could actually do something this summer that I'm both passionate about, that gets my parents out of my hair, right?
And
allows
your
me to
parents are
try.
like, wow,
Yeah.
they could do something.
Allows me to try something new that I don't have time to do during the school year. Does that make sense? Does that help?
Yeah. No, it does make sense because it's true. Because, you know, as here in Canada, right? Well, wait, before COVID, you would see a lot of, and we're big into hockey, right? You see a lot of kids, hockey, 2 weeks off, summer hockey. You know, it's just like, you got to ask some kids, do you really, really want to be in like hockey all the time?
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, like I would bet that they would like to be, you know, maybe doing something else that would serve them and make them more happy. And I don't know, I just think about it because I have friends who have kids, and that's just kind of like, it's just like a routine, like a trend.
Mm-hmm.
And for what? To get a little bit better. Yeah. You know, stay in top shape, you know, unless you're AAA, maybe that's, I mean, your goals.
So here's inevitably what happens with our young athletes is one of their greatest fears, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that they end up their second semester of their senior year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Their 12th grade year. And they either have a scholarship or they don't. And they've either thought about college or they haven't.
Mm-hmm.
And to be more exact, the fear is that what happens in that May or June when I graduate, if my entire identity has been around sports for the last 18 years, and all of a sudden I no longer have that competitive identity. Because it's really tough.
Do you come across a lot of that?
Often.
Do you find, Andrew, that maybe it's just those kids that you find that need you? I mean, outside of sport, I mean, there's a lot of kids. Do you get kids that are not in sport?
Yes.
That come to you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because if you're like, I don't know if your target is, you know, high performers, but
I'm speaking to high performers because I think that's probably a bunch of people who listen to you.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, yes.
But
I mean, I guess, yeah. But I'm just asking, like, in general, to like outside of like the high performers, do you also get like the average student that comes in and you know, has the high anxiety, fear, even about like leaving high school?
Yeah.
You know, where they're popular, where they feel comfortable and moving to you know, college.
Yeah. So I'll tell you a little story if you don't mind me.
Yeah, go ahead.
So when we first started this, we really thought, hey, middle schoolers and high schoolers, if we learn the principles of organization, setting a vision and setting some goals, what can happen, and what we've seen happen, is that during those years, middle school and high school, grades increase, not because we're tutors, but because they know how to study. They don't put it off till the end of the night, right? They don't put it off till the end of the semester, right? When they don't keep asking for extra credit, they kind of get ahead of it, okay?
Mm-hmm.
What I found about a year ago, I think it was like October 2020, is that we had parents reaching out, say, hey, well, do you do this for college students? Right?
Oh.
Do you do this for people? What happens when they graduate high school?
Yeah.
And I thought, what does happen when they graduate high school? And what we found, regardless of whether they're in sports or not, imagine for 18 years having your schedule set for you. Whether you have extracurriculars in the morning, right? If you're in like student government in the morning, or you have practice in the morning, or like after school, maybe you have a work, maybe you have
Mm-hmm.
jobs, maybe you do whatever. That day is pretty much set. It's like a 9 to 5 work day.
Yeah.
And you get to college, and what happens? You think you have about 4 classes.
Yeah.
Right?
They're
Right?
here, they're there, they're.
Yeah, and you're like, oh, look at this. And even for the brightest students, middle students, right? Just like you mentioned, students that are middle of the road academically, or students that need motivation. It is the first time that they are responsible for having a vision of what they want out of school. Nobody's telling them 8 hours a day, get A's, get B's. Nobody's telling them to turn their project in. And what happens at the end of the semester is they go, oh crap.
Yeah.
I was used to getting C's, now I'm failing out. I was used to getting B's, now I'm getting C's and D's. Right?
Yeah.
I was used to getting A's, and now I don't even know what I'm getting. And so you go to your professor and you say, hey, listen, I was in National Honor Society, right? Or I was an okay student in high school. What do I do? How do I get extra credit? And what do they say in college?
I don't know. It's up to you. No.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
We don't do that here.
Yeah.
We don't do that here.
How do I get extra credit?
And so with our students at any level, high performer, high anxiety, people that just want a little extra help, to have these life skills of setting a goal, creating a vision of what you want out of college, they are 150 light years ahead of somebody who's just showing up to party, and there's nothing wrong with that. Come on.
No, I mean, the first year you got to do it a little bit of that. That's for sure.
Right.
And then you realize it's not all worth it.
But they've become intentional.
Mm-hmm.
And without that intention, you get lost because other people have made the decisions for the last 18 years of your life.
Yeah. I think that's a huge thing, actually, in that big transition from high school to college, because, you can't go and beg to the teacher for this and that. They don't care. You're one of 300. You don't hand in your stuff. Too bad. Like it's a huge learning gap. And I find like a little bit of the high school is to fault for that.
Yes.
But if I could say that, and it also, I think, if I could think about my kids, they're in a pretty strict French school.
Okay.
And would you believe it? They use paper agendas. I'm like, awesome. I use paper agenda.
Yeah. I love it.
And they write their stuff down. And so that kind of little thing will translate into high school, where they write all their stuff down. Whereas the English school my daughter went to, my first one, she transferred from French to English. They didn't use it once. They never referenced it. I don't even know why they bought them. They never used them. And I was like, what? And so, it's kind of like, and their philosophy was like, oh, very lackadaisy, come and go. And she's like, oh my God, I can't handle this. But I find, and it's good that you have something like this to help, because there's a lot of schools, like a lot of kids going through that and finding that transition pretty damn hard.
So here's an interesting thing, Sylvie.
Yeah.
About by agenda, because I'm a crazy Yank down here. Do you mean like a schedule?
Yeah, scheduler. Yeah.
Right, there you go.
Agenda.
So scheduler. Here's something that's fascinating about a scheduler, and about you mentioned your daughter, them not really holding them to a schedule.
Yeah.
You can make a schedule. Anyone can make a schedule.
Mm-hmm.
And I happen to think they're very important. But unless you have goals before you create that schedule, unless you have goals before that, the schedule is just another piece of paper.
Oh.
But if you set goals, you can actually be intentional of where you spend your time. So when you look at your schedule, you say, oh, great, this practice this morning is getting me to where I want to be at the end of the sports year, right? Oh, this hour of studying. I don't really want to study, but I know that this will get the grade that I want to get, right? So if you build a schedule around goals, you are 100% more likely to actually use that schedule. And then here's the last part, is it goes back to accountability, Sylvie.
Keep going.
It goes back to accountability, is that the top business performers, the top athletes, they all have a coach. They just all have a coach. And when not kids, just teens or young adults, set a schedule around a goal and then have somebody that holds them accountable, they actually enjoy it. If we get kids into coaching and they're not held accountable to their own goals, it's this exact same reaction. Well, this is lame. If you choose accountability around the things that you actually want, that gets exciting.
I'm thinking about my business, Andrew. What are you doing?
There you go. I can introduce you to a couple of coaches.
Yeah, that's right. I know. That's why we pay the big bucks to be in our mastermind. So see, that is like a coach. We have paying a coach to help us, keep us accountable.
The accountability is an interesting thing, because I have a lot of parent friends in New York City, being an artist, who are artists. They might be, they might be a photographer, they might be a creative director, they might be an actor, right? And I never really thought about accountability, but I went out because in the coaching space and in the business space, we always want to, like, we're craving it. We understand that it's not, and in the athletic space, you understand, you're like, I crave somebody holding me to get in the pool and swim, right? What I need to do. But in the world, these dads, we went out on a dad retreat and we came back and they were all like, you start to dream. And one of them, who's very successful, said, okay, so what are you going to do this Monday? I was like, well, I'll send a text. He's like, that's all I need is accountability. We think that the only people that need it are like athletes, business people, right? You name it. Those like high performers. People love accountability. These are artists who have no reason. They're just like, I'm not going to get it done if I don't stay accountable. It's the same with kids. Yeah. Right. And I'll repeat this again, when it gets really interesting for teens and young adults, is when they ask for accountability around goals that they have chosen to set for themselves. Right. It's not what their teachers have said. It's not what their parents have said, right? It's not what their brothers or sisters have said, or even, a scouting master, or it's them. And then they get to feel this dopamine hit of, oh, I'm doing something I'm passionate about. Yeah, kind of, what do you do when, I'm just thinking of my daughter, like, she has opportunities. She has had opportunities. She has fallen short due to fear. Yep. So she has this great opportunity now. And I've never asked her, I have asked her, where do you see yourself? Like, what would you like to do with this? Because you have a lot of chance. I mean, you're going to have to work hard for it, because nothing comes easy. And and it's like, I don't know. What specifically are you asking? Opportunity with sports, with cycling, with cycling. So because she is visually impaired, she got she applied to be on, say, the Ontario in the next gen para athlete program. Okay. For visually impaired. Yeah, it is fantastic. So she's got a coach, just to give her a program. I don't think they offer anything else than that. She has now like an accountability partner to ride with, which would have been me, but mom.
I'm like a backup, so that's fine.
Sure.
But but it's somebody else that, but I was just like, and she's young. Para athletes usually come in at older ages. So she has a good amount of time to train to become, like, build up that strength. And so I was just like, I try and find out, like, I try and ask her, where do you see yourself with this? Like, are you super passionate? Like, is this something that you really want to work towards? Like,
what's her response?
Oh, it's just like, I don't know. Yeah, it's fun. Like, it's not like, I just want to, like, and I could tell the difference, between your, like, people who are like really into it, and others like, I don't know. Maybe it's just because I'm the parent that she doesn't want to give me, like, a full on answer.
That could be part of it. And part of it, Sylvie, if you don't mind me.
Help me. Yeah, coach me, Andrew.
is connecting with her why. So when we start with students across the board, young adults across the board, we start non-negotiable, even if they get in because I want scheduled time management. I'm an athlete, and I need you to help me overcome fear. We're like, great, we're going to do that in your coaching program. But day one is diving into vision.
Right.
Day one, that's it. It's a non-negotiable. And we do an exercise called 20 what's to find your why. And we say, just take a step back. If you've identified yourself as a top football player, basketball player, right? Just take a step back. Don't worry about it. And we're going to ask you some questions and just go with me. It's going to be kind of fun. I'm not your mom. I'm not your dad. I don't even know how you even would have answered this, 2 weeks ago before I met you, right? So release all your expectations. And the questions are things like, what makes you unique as a student? What do you want your mom or your dad or your grandpa or your grandma or who's ever in the picture to say to you when you graduate high school? What does your dream vacation look like? What does your perfect day look like? Doing who's involved, and what might you be doing? What do you want to give back to the world? Right? And we have an intentional series of 20 questions. And at the end, it's not like the answer to 20 questions creates your why. Right? But inevitably, each student is thinking deeper at the end of their time about what really makes them tick. In the end, for your daughter, hey, it might be, I really want to be a cycler. And in the end, like for one of the students we worked with, he wanted to work for NASA. But he said, cool. I don't want to. I have a bad stomach. I can't be an astronaut. And we said, you still work for NASA. There's a whole HR department. In NASA, right? There's groundskeepers in NASA. You can be you can code for NASA. There's a lot of different things you can do.
So it broadens the perspective. Like, so my daughter wanted to get into nursing, and she found out because of her vision, nursing is not an option. I said, well, there's lots of stuff in the medical field that you could do, like a lot. Doesn't have to be nursing. Like,
but that's also see, Sylvie, what you're doing there is what most parents do and what I do. So, right, I'm a parent. Is that's a result oriented. It's like when you think about nursing, right, you can do a lot of different things. And that already provides an immense amount of expectation for the kids. Well, I have to choose who I'm going to be 20 years from now, right? 15, and what job I want. Instead, what we encourage is, hey, do you know any nurses? Great. Okay. what are some of the characteristics that you like about him, that you like to emulate?
Oh.
They might say, I like the bedside manner. Let's say, Jane's a nurse, and one thing I always love about her is she's talking about how much she cares, right? Bob's a nurse over here, and one thing I really enjoy about him is that he works really long hours, and with a cheerful spirit. Those things actually have nothing to do with nursing.
Right.
But when the kids start to think about characteristics they want to emulate, you can start with the time-honored, philosophy of be, do, have, right? You got to focus on who you are first, who you want to be, and then who you want to be will dictate what you want to do, and what you want to do will dictate what you want to have. And we tend to do that as humans the other way around.
So I should just ask something a little slightly different.
You should coach your daughter on not what do you want to do with that, right? But I invite you to ask her questions of like, what would you like your ideal day to look like?
Well, she did tell me she wanted to work for the government. I'm like, oh my God. What would you like to do in the government?
But again, that's what would you like to do?
Big.
You've jumped to what do you want to do in the government, right?
Okay.
Right. So she's automatically thinking, wow, I have to tie myself to an action or a job.
Right. Oh, yeah. Parents, I hope you're getting this. Don't make the mistakes I'm making. My poor daughter.
Mistakes. That's the best part about it. You just make mistakes over and over.
Well, okay. I'll tell you one thing. Yeah. I'll tell you one thing that I think I was successful in. Like, so she just graduated. Like, she just had prom like yesterday. And she's like, well, I'm going to take a gap year. I said, don't take a gap. Like, and she talked, she's talked about kind of like this before. Like, so, my friends are going this, I'm doing that. I'm like, don't do it. Because I did it. And I'll tell you, I wish I hadn't. Because I went back to school at age 23.
So you took a
I didn't take a gap year. It wasn't called a gap year back then.
Sure.
But I went to school. I went to work. I worked. I saw the money sign. I'm going to work after high school. I left home as soon as I graduated. And I've said, it was the worst mistake I ever did. What I know now is and I try to go back to school a couple times, is that I would go back to school. I said, just learn from my mistake. Don't create that gap in your academics. If anything, take some programs, move yourself forward. In anything you do, you need to have some of these prerequisites. Take them, figure out what you want to do afterwards. Put yourself maybe in an area that you think you'd like to go into. And if it takes you a couple extra years, so be it. But it's way harder to come back after you've left and get back into it as a mature student.
There's a couple of unique programs out there that I'm not affiliated with, don't have any skin in the game, that actually provide a structured gap year for.
Oh, see, well, that's the thing. She's like, well, what are you going to do in the gap year? Well, you got some kids who are fortunate enough to, be able to travel the world on somebody else's dime. And I'm like, well, that ain't going to happen here, just to let you know. Yep. Or you're just going to spend your time working. And she's like, well, I don't really want to spend my time working. So I am going to go back. Like, I'm going to go to school.
It goes back to, what's your daughter's name, Sylvie?
Tamsin.
Tamsin. I love that. That's amazing. My three boys, their names are Maverick, Jude, and Tiger. So,
whoa, Tiger?
Yeah, Tiger. He's 2.5 and he's nuts.
He's like a tiger?
He's boss baby. That's what he is.
Oh, he's a boss
baby. He is boss baby.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
We took all of the three boys to Boss Baby 2. And he sits there, demands the big tub of popcorn, puts it in between his legs, and is just eats out of it. And then the older brothers like put their hands in and eat out of it. And I'm like, this kid is running the world, and we named him Tiger. This is going to be a problem or a great.
Sounds like my Lucas.
But honestly, with Tamsin, it goes back to vision.
Yeah.
It goes back to that, she doesn't have to have the whole world figured out. You have some amazing advice as a mom directly related to your experience. And she can do it all, or she can do as much of it. But allowing Gen Z to think about a vision without the expectation that they need to either succeed or fail right now,
right,
is such a gift that we've found that they've been given. It's probably something that I've been the most surprised at in the impact that we're having.
I'd like to ask her that, actually.
Yeah.
It is like a serious question that I think us adults just don't think about, or like think about to ask our kids. Like, we're trying to figure out our own vision, right? I'll tell you
what, I'll do this. You let me know. We can put it in the show notes. And I can I'll just send you like a PDF of our 20 what's, right? 20 what's to find your why.
Oh, that would be awesome. Okay.
I'll send that to you.
And so that people can download it from the show notes.
Sure. I don't mind. Well, you know what? They should just DM me at Andrew Coaches, and I'll just send it to him. I'll send it to him that way. Okay,
everybody. Did you hear that? So if you want those specific show questions, the 20, it's 20 what's to find your why, but 20 what's to find your why.
Just DM me 20 what's.
So you'll find Andrew in the show notes, all his social media. We could put your email if you want. You can put my email,
sure. Yeah. Absolutely.
And you just send him a message and say, hey, can you send me that PDF? And let's all try that. If you're a parent here and you have kids, teenagers right now, maybe you could try it on your like 9-10-year-old that's looking to be, like my son is getting into football. And my daughter wants to do gymnastics. So we know the route through both of them. We've seen, and just go through it. Can you do it with that younger kid? Kids?
100%. And you know what? You might not have answers to all of them, right? And you can
they might look at you funny.
Yeah, I haven't tried this yet. So you might try asking them yourself, or just giving it to them and say, hey, you know what? Instead of the 30 minutes for TV tonight, let's
sit down and have a chat.
Let's do this. Or Saturday morning, hey guys, just think about these. Give everybody a time. It gives them like a space to dream, and it gives them a space to say, Mom, you're crazy. I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
But inevitably one of those will be like, that always say, I'm so surprised when I sit with students, young athletes, students alike, in that first session. Because in the coaching space, we think about this stuff all the time. And as entrepreneurs running your own business, you're thinking about, what is my business going to look like in 5-10 years, right?
Right.
And as an actor, you're always thinking about, what might my career look like? There's no linear path. But as students, to have a dedicated time with a series of questions that make you think a little deeper about life. At the end of that first call, they're like, I was like, hey, what'd you get out of the first call? And they're like, never been asked that before. I'm thinking about things a little differently.
Yeah.
And it's without the expectations. Mom, dad, a sports coach, a teacher isn't going to be like, well, in that case, let me use that information to, make you a successful student. It's more about
an instant success.
Yeah. It's more about, they just get to spend some time.
I love it. So remember, everybody, hit Andrew up for those 20 questions.
Let's do it. We're changing lives.
Even if you aren't a parent and I'm sure a couple parents, maybe you could send this to them and say, hey, I heard this on a podcast and I just want to share it with you.
And you know what?
Um,
If you're not a parent and you're an avid cycler,
you can even do it yourself, probably.
do it, and then you'll just have to, when it says like what GPA do you want it to, just you can say, hey, what sort of compensation would I love in my job?
Yeah.
Right?
How much money would I like to make?
Yeah, something like that. Because we do that professionally, but I'll send you
Yeah.
the student one, and it's really
You
it's
can
super cool.
change it up. Wow. Okay. So now, why don't you go over where people can find you
Yeah,
and where people can sign up for this program?
sure, absolutely. So here's how we sign people up.
All right.
We
Just
don't take
email
everyone.
Andrew. No, just kidding.
Yeah, just
Oh, listen to
seriously,
this.
email
They
me.
don't take everybody.
We do not take everyone. We don't take somebody who doesn't want to be in coaching. But for the parents that are listening, it is not your job, and we have seen it fail over and over, for you to diagnose whether or not your kids want to be in coaching. So here's how you get enrolled is you can email me at Hovelson@southwesterncoaching.com, and we can put that in the show notes, and just real simple, just put coaching, right? And maybe put your son or daughter's age, a reason why you might be interested in with them. Or you can DM me at Andrew Coaches with just coaching, and we'll connect that way. What we do is we dive in with the parents, right? Make sure it's a good fit. See from your perspective where you think we could be of value, and we share how our program works. And then the best part is we qualify and select students by actually offering them a free coaching session. And so they get to try it on for size. And this is inevitably where parents get into trouble. Inevitably. They decide whether or not their kid's going to like it. They decide whether or not their kid's going to do it. They decide whether or not it's going to be right for their kids, right? I can tell you from 18 months of doing this, you will get it wrong. Even if you say, my kid is going to want coaching, and then your kid wants coaching, there will be a different reason personally why as a teenager or a young adult, they have chosen this thing that none of their peers are doing, which is accountability around their goals. So you got to release yourself from your expectations as a parent and allow them to go through the process. As long as the investment makes sense for you guys, that's kind of your job as parents, is to make sure the investment makes sense. And then it's the kid's job to decide whether or not they want to do it.
I love that. I love that the parents get a little bit of a grade too.
They do, 100%.
Because
we also do parent phone calls once a month. So it's not technically a coaching call for the parents, but sometimes it turns into that.
Yeah, I bet it does. Because us parents know everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
We just know everything. And so I love this. And I'm just trying to think if there's anything else that I'd love to ask you, because you covered a lot of stuff. I want that little
absolutely,
questions.
Sylvie, I'll get it to you.
And
here's one more thing. Here's one more thing.
Yeah, you got one more thing?
Okay, so you guys, the audience and the parents and even some of the students that are here, and if you're a student, reach out to me too, because we'll just get your parents on board. It's like, if you're fired up about something like that and you're a student or you're a young adult, right? We coach all the way through like 24, 25. DM me as well, and we can talk about it. And then if you come with some place to better yourself, and you tell your parents, hey, I don't want that new Nintendo Switch. What I would actually like is to create a vision and set some goals. They're going to be much more on board. But here's kind of some of the topics we cover, because we've talked a lot about goal setting and vision and overcoming fear. Let me just give you kind of the biggest hits for your audience. So vision, goal setting, schedule and time management, positive self-talk, attitude of gratitude, overcoming fear, college planning, emotional intelligence, which is game-changing and life-changing, and honestly, future-changing for a lot of folks, and accountability and problem solving. and we have a whole host of others, but those are kind of the biggest hits. And everyone gets into coaching for a different reason. And we've got coaching reasons and content for most folks.
Are you sure you don't have a parent division yet?
We do have a parent division.
You did? Oh,
yes.
Of course, because we can all use that too. And I was just thinking about your list because I have a cycling coaching program, and I've added stuff like that too. Mm-hmm. Because as a coach, even for adults, I find that we need a lot of help in that department. And I was just trying to think of how I can make my coaching program better. But and I think this is just amazing because we have seen more in the last couple of years of, I would say, sport. And where you hear of young athletes mm-hmm. getting into that visualizing, journaling, meditation, things like that to help them get over the hump or to the next level. And I think that, when we were in school, stuff like that didn't exist ever. And I don't think we ever heard about mention of journaling and meditation.
What was the HBO documentary with like Shaun White and Michael Phelps? It was like Going for Gold or something too.
Oh, it might have been because the one I was thinking about was that young tennis player that won over Serena Williams.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Yeah.
And
absolutely.
she talked a lot about how her mom would get her or taught her how to meditate mm-hmm. at like 12. And where she came and won at like 18, 16. Yes. She was young, right?
There is a way to achieve, if you want mm-hmm. to achieve, there is a way to achieve, to enjoy both the achievement and the process to get there, right? And be mentally healthy and fulfilled all at the same mm-hmm. time. It can totally happen.
Oh, and for sure.
We've done it with professionals over and over in our professional division, and we're doing it with kids, and it's an mm-hmm. exciting time.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we've seen the opposite happen,
Absolutely.
When people don't get it, right? Like aren't in there.
So. If you're only focused on achievement, right? What happens the day after you actually achieve, right? You get the achievement hangover, right? Or you're terrified. You're terrified. I just won the big race, right? I just got the great grade. What do I do now?
Yeah.
And it's because of the lack of vision and a lack of consistent goal setting.
Yeah. So I was just thinking before we end, I was just thinking about you're American, I'm Canadian, but the gold winner, Kelsey Mitchell, who just won gold in the track. And it could be anybody. It can be like a first time gold medal winner in the Olympics from the US that, relatively new. And I'm just thinking about her because I interviewed her and I asked her, I said, where do you see yourself after this? And she didn't quite know. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. I can't imagine what she's thinking about now, but let's just finish it here. And Andrew's got so much good stuff for you. Get those 20 questions, get in touch with him, whether you're a parent or you're a young, I don't know if I have any teenagers listening to my podcast, but whether you're a young adult going into a competitive stream, because like cycling's one of them, juniors after high school, get in touch with Andrew.
Get in touch with me. If you're interested in coaching, right? Email me or DM me coaching, and I can walk you through how we select students. If not, that's all right. If you want the 20 watts, I'll send you that PDF. We're changing the world. We have a company website. we have a company social media, and then you can see me making a fool out of myself.
He's great. You should be following him on Instagram.
My personal one, which gives my kids lots of kicks. But DM me personally. We can get you hooked up with a coach. We can get you hooked up with some laughs, and I can send you out that PDF and start working on changing your life. One vision at a time.
Perfect. I love it. One vision at a time. So thank you to all of our listeners. Thank you so much again, Andrew. This has been a good long one. I hope everybody's taken away a couple nuggets. Maybe you can let us know your biggest takeaways I think this will be on YouTube, so you could definitely put your comments there or in the review, or you can just message us directly, which we would absolutely love. But with that, make sure you follow both of us on Instagram or Facebook. I'm sure, and I think you're on TikTok too.
I have a TikTok video through our company website. They got 40,000 views.
Oh my gosh, go look at it. So with that, have an amazing evening, and we'll see you on the next episode. Thanks.